some of these things are actually abuses. And the more you talk about it, the more you're ignored, the more you're told it's not a problem. Until eventually you realize that these things need to be determined by the public. I'm just another guy who sits there day to day in the office, watches what's happening, and I'm willing to go on the record to defend the authenticity of them and say, I didn't change these, I didn't modify the story. This is the truth, this is what's happening.
What Edward Snowden revealed was the previously unimaginable scale of global surveillance being carried out by his former employers at the United States National Security Agency, the NSA. By the time he gave this interview, the 29-year-old former intelligence analyst had been stripped of his citizenship and pursued across the globe. Trapped in Russia while more than 20 foreign nations offered him political asylum, at home, congressmen were calling for his assassination, and his government had charged him with espionage. It's little wonder Snowden ran, given the fate of fellow whistleblowers. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange remains trapped in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, while a secret grand jury continues its investigation into WikiLeaks, and his colleagues are detained in airports. The last US military whistleblower, then Private Bradley Manning, endured over 2 years of unlawful detention in what the UN describes as torturous conditions, before being sentenced to over 30 years in prison for exposing US war crimes in Iraq, most famously the killing of journalists and civilians in Baghdad in 2007.
The most alarming aspect of the video for me was the seemingly delightful bloodlust they appeared to have. They dehumanised the individuals they were engaging. In the video you can see the bungo truck driving up to assist the wounded individual. Within minutes, the aerial weapons team crew learns that children were in the van. The crew exhibits no remorse. Instead, they downplay the significance of their actions, saying, quote, "Well, it's their fault for bringing their kids into the battle," unquote.
The files Snowden leaked from his former bosses at the NSA are considered the most significant leaks in world history. What they reveal is a vast web of secret, transnational systems surveilling all our electronic communications, online and via telephone networks, plus browsing history and GPS locations. Millions are targeted and profiled. Being a good citizen will give you no more protection than being a dissident or a dignitary. And just having a friend on Facebook who's friends with someone suspicious is enough to get you on the watch list. Even the United Nations and the Vatican have been spied on. And in fact, analysts are actively discouraged from justifying their surveillance with evidence. Little surprise then that the White House review panel was forced to admit they were unable to identify a single terrorist attack that had been prevented by indiscriminate data collection. Along with a host of major telephone providers, the bulk of social networking infrastructure has been implicated. Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Apple, Yahoo and Skype had all buckled to the government's secret courts. Like this one, ordering that they provide an electronic copy of all call detail records for communications between the United States and abroad or wholly within the United States. Their complaints that indiscriminate surveillance amounted to a violation of Americans' Fourth Amendment rights were silenced before ever being heard by the public, because it was further ordered that no person shall disclose to any other person that the FBI or NSA has sought or obtained these tangible things. Our locations, our contacts, and in many cases the content of our conversations are being logged and analysed by private contractors under the governance of secret courts that legislate for Snowden's former bosses at the NSA and their British counterparts. These revelations have changed the world forever. Conspiracy has become reality, privacy has become myth, and paranoia has become a necessity for investigative journalists.
Snowden leaks show that the Americans and the British in particular survey and intercept far too many communications because their machines, their computers can do that. How can people see the wood from the trees with all this information and so many people having access to it, and they can leak it or give it to somebody else? I mean, it just seems to me that these agencies, especially the American National Security Agency and Britain's GCHQ, are really out of control.
The covert NSA was founded in 1952 by President Truman and tasked with domestic and foreign surveillance, decoding and data analysis for the Department of Defense.
We collect foreign intelligence for our country, and we provide information assurance for national security systems. So we have two great missions, and those missions provide us some tremendous capabilities.
The Government Communication Headquarters, or GCHQ, is the NSA's sister organisation in Britain. It produced the world's first programmable computer for code-breaking efforts during the Second World War, and had operated in secret for over 50 years until a leak in 1976, without which its very existence might still remain unknown. The Guardian revealed the NSA had in recent years paid GCHQ over $150 million, quote, to secure access to and influence over Britain's intelligence gathering.
Since the 1940s, GCHQ and its American equivalents, now the National Security Agency, have had a relationship that is unique in the world. This relationship has been and remains essential to the security of both nations. It has stopped many terrorist and espionage plots against this country, and it has saved many lives.
The 9/11 terrorist attacks changed everything by paving the way for the USA Patriot Act. Instead of greater privacy protection for an age of advanced technology, where phones double up as tracking devices and unprecedented amounts of personal data are transmitted online, the Patriot Act expanded the NSA's mandate exponentially and freed it from the old ethical restrictions that had governed targeted wiretapping. And because the world's major telecom and internet companies are all American, almost wherever you are in the world, your data ends up under their jurisdiction and subject to their Patriot Act.
Nobody is listening to your telephone calls.
Under the protection of these secret laws, a near-global and many argue unconstitutional surveillance industrial complex has been installed by intelligence agencies at the highest level, with not just the public, but the majority of even politicians left completely in the dark, with congressmen accusing their spies of lying to them and calling for top-level resignations, while their bosses accuse the media of sensationalism. Two distinct stories are emerging, and one thing is certain: somebody is lying.
People wonder, how is it you didn't know about the cell phones being looked at or listened to, and why you didn't know and who should have told you?
Well, first of all, I'm not confirming a bunch of assumptions that have been made in the press. But what I have said is that the national security operations generally have one purpose, and that is to make sure that the American people are safe and that I'm making good decisions, and I'm the final user of all the intelligence that they gather. But they're involved in a whole wide range of issues, and we give them policy direction, but what we've seen over the last several years is their capacities continue to develop and expand, and that's why I'm initiating now a review to make sure that what they're able to do doesn't necessarily mean what they should be doing.
So should we assume from that answer, sir, that you did or would know, you would know if actually that was happening?
Jim, as I said, I'm not here to talk about classified information.
Snowden has been subjected to strong condemnation in the US media. His motives, professional integrity, patriotism, and even his girlfriend have come under scrutiny. Even so, he continues to enjoy a higher approval rating than either Congress or President Obama. And broad-based coalitions campaigning both in solidarity with Snowden and against the practices he exposed go from strength to strength. Widespread outrage has been provoked by what is widely seen as a subversion of the First and Fourth Amendments of the US Constitution, which uphold freedom of expression and protect citizens from unreasonable search and seizure.
When the American people find out how their government has secretly interpreted the Patriot Act, they are going to be stunned and they are going to be angry. The fact is, anyone can read the plain text of the Patriot Act, and yet many members of Congress have no idea how the law is being secretly interpreted by the executive branch because that interpretation is classified.
You know, Ronald Reagan said we're a country with a government. I think we're reversing that relationship. Our country is now thinking our government now thinks it has a country. The only way to really maintain that is to do like all these other totalitarian states have done around the world. You have to gather information about your population so you can control it. And that's really what's driving all of this. They're afraid of the population of the United States. They want a country, this country. That's really, in my view, what they're doing and why.
I just learned a secret. It's a honey, it's a pip. But the enemy is listening, so I'll never let it slip. Because when I learn a secret, boy, I zipper up my lip. Now the military secret that I carry in my brain, I keep in safe deposit with a padlock and chain. You bet I got a secret. And I bet we find it out. The soldiers got a secret, but I bet we find it out.
On the other side of the Atlantic, Snowden also exposed the key role played by the NSA's British counterpart, GCHQ. According to the confidential memos of top GCHQ officials, they enjoy a light oversight regime compared to the NSA and benefit from a sympathetic parliamentary committee that gives free rein to their program, Project Tempora. Collaboration with the NSA, leaks reveal, was stepped up in 2007, with a new deal enabling NSA officials to access previously restricted information on the communications of British citizens not suspected of any crime.
There is GCHQ's own Tempora program, the fact that it has the capabilities to sweep up basically all our electronic communications going in and out of the country, including quite possibly things that are both sent and received in the UK. And the second aspect of the claim is a challenge effectively around the American PRISM program. We are concerned that the security services here are able to get information from the United States that they wouldn't be able to get in this country except with a warrant under the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act.
It has been suggested that GCHQ uses our partnership with the United States to get around UK law, obtaining information that they cannot legally obtain in the United Kingdom. I wish to be absolutely clear that this accusation is baseless.